How about the head of the criminal division,
sure
Lanny Brewer? Did he authorize it?
I'm not sure whether Mr. Brewer authorized it. I mean, you have to understand the way in which the department operates. Although there are operations, this one has gotten a great deal of publicity.
Yeah, they're dead Americans as a result of this failed and reckless program. So I would say that it hasn't gotten enough attention, has it, Mr. Attorney General?
It's not necessarily. I mean, there's an investigation that is underway.
I'm aware of that investigation. Let me follow up with a couple of questions.
And we'll have to look at that to see exactly what happened with regard to.
Well, Mr. Attorney General,
I mean, I take very seriously the allegations.
Mr. Attorney General, do you take seriously, Mr. Attorney General, do you take seriously a subpoena signed by the Clerk of the House?
Of course.
After 14 days of waiting for a letter to be signed or acknowledged or responded to, we sent a subpoena signed by the Clerk of the House. 32 days later, last night, your people responded by giving us 92 pages representing 3 documents that were public records already, all of them were available, and saying that the other 400 or so responsive pages were not going to be produced. Do you stand by that? And were you aware of that?
I think we indicated that the other 400 pages would be made available for review. Just to be accurate. I think so. Those, in essence, were being made available as well.
And that took 32 days to get that answer.
The information was gathered as quickly as it could. I've taken steps to enhance our ability to respond to subpoenas and document requests in that regard. I was not satisfied with the pace at which these things were happening, and as I said, I've taken some steps to make sure that we are more responsive.
Mr. Attorney General, do you agree that Congress has an independent responsibility, particularly when U.S. persons have been killed because of a failed and reckless program, to investigate those who authorized, approved, knew about it, and in some other way were responsible for it?
Well, as I indicated to you last night when we spoke about this at the White House, yeah, I think that there is a legitimate oversight responsibility that Congress has, but I think also Congress has to use that oversight responsibility in a responsible way. We have cases, 20 matters that will go to trial in June of this year.
Well, Mr. Attorney General, isn't it true that those cases that will go to trial in June, I have very limited time, I'm sorry, those cases are basically a bunch of meth addicts who did the buying, that you do not have what this program was supposed to produce. You don't have the kingpins. You don't have the places it went. What you have are the people that you already had on videotape many, many months before indictments were brought. Isn't this true?
There are cases that are important that we are trying to bring, that we want to try successfully, and they are part of a scheme. They are part of a scheme. You can't look at a case and it's as an individual matter and think it is unimportant, because small cases lead to larger ones, and that's why it is important.
I'd ask unanimous consent for an additional 30
seconds.
That's
why these cases are important, and that is why we...
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for an additional 30 seconds.
Mr. Attorney General, my final question, though, is, from what you're saying about a scheme and so on, do you stand by this program? In other words, and it's not a hypothetical, really, if you knew this program, knew about this program 90 days ago, 180 days ago, would you have allowed it to continue? And if not, then what are you going to do about the people who did know and allowed it to continue?
Well, what I have told people at the Department of Justice is that under no circumstances in any case that any investigation that we bring should guns be allowed to be distributed in an uncontrolled manner.
So that would be consistent with the March 9th letter from Deputy Attorney General James Cole, in which he said that we should not design or conduct undercover operations which include guns crossing the border. If we have knowledge that guns are about to cross the border, we must take immediate action to stop the firearms from crossing the border, and so on. That's your policy today.
That is our policy. That has certainly been the policy that I've tried to impose.
And isn't Fast and Furious inconsistent with that policy?
Well, that's one of the questions that we'll have to see, whether or not Fast and Furious was conducted in a way that's consistent with what Jim wrote there, what I have said today, and that's what the Inspector General is in fact looking at. And
will you agree to work with both this committee, of course, and the other committees investigating this as to, we're not looking at the straw buyers, Mr. Attorney General, we're looking at you, straw purchasers, we're looking at you. We're looking at your key people who knew or should have known about this, and whether or not your judgment was consistent with good practices, and whether or not instead the Justice Department is basically guilty of allowing weapons to kill Americans and Mexicans. So will you agree to cooperate with that investigation, both on the House and Senate side?
We'll certainly cooperate with all the investigations, but I'm going to take great exception to what you just said. The notion that somehow or other this Justice Department is responsible for those deaths that you mentioned, that assertion is offensive. And I want to tell you that
but what if it's accurate,
it is the
Mr.
policy
Attorney
of the
General?
Justice Department to make sure that we do all that we can to protect law enforcement agents. It is one of the reasons why I have tried to look at a whole variety of methods, techniques that we can use to protect the lives of law enforcement agents. It is something that this country is not focused enough on. Over the last 2 years, the rate at which our people in law enforcement have been killed has risen about 60%.
So what am I going to tell Agent Terry's mother about how he died at the hand of a gun that was videotaped as it was sold to a straw purchaser, fully expecting it to end up in the hands of drug cartels?
Well, one will have to see exactly what happened with regard to the guns that are at issue there. And I've attended funerals, This is something that, this isn't theoretical, this is not political, this is extremely real for me as Attorney General.
It is for us,
into
too.
the eyes.
I thank the Chairman.
The gentleman's time has expired.
So now, Eric Holder is lying to Congress, who's turning ceremonially anyway, because as you see, we're bombing Libya with cruise missiles and depleted uranium, yet no war has been declared. Congress did not declare war because Congress is getting to be ceremonial. The executive branch is going to do whatever they want, but the question is, why the false flag? Why are they doing this to set up the Second Amendment? It's your gun rights they're after. Why would they give guns to drug gangs in another country that are now shooting United States citizen police officers and Border Patrol agents? Okay? Here's a picture where the guy from La Seta says, I bought the guns directly from the government. Here's another picture. This is where they figured out, Eric Holder, your Attorney General lied. Boy, this is just like when your president got shot, huh? Yeah, I remember Kennedy. Okay. So here's a picture, So you see the gun stimulus bill, what I just read to you, so you can see the actual verbiage of how they were taking your money that they're going to charge you interest on, by the way, because we have a national debt, don't you know, and a debt ceiling. So anyhow, they took that money to buy guns and move them down across the border and give them to drug gangs. Here's a picture. U.S. government openly admits it's now up to 30,000 guns. And once again, you don't get automatic weapons at Bass Pro Shops. You don't get grenade launchers. They just don't sell them. Okay, so here's a little piece. This is, the NRA woke up, and I'm not too big on them only because for other reasons. But here's the NRA at least showing you that here's a bunch of quotes from all your, quote, leaders who tell you the problem in Mexico, by the way, they're disarmed. So that's like victim disarmament. Okay, more people die on our border now, okay, on both sides of the border than died every year in the Vietnam War as far as the U.S. casualties. It's over 20,000 a year dying on our borders. But here you go. Here's where you're Eric Holder. Here's where Obama. Here's where, I want to say Napolitano. Here's where they all tell you, Hillary Clinton, it's all your fault. It's the Second Amendment.
This so-called Iron River of guns from the United States arms Mexican drug cartels to the teeth.
We have seen that nearly 90% of those arms comes from the United States.
I don't think that any foreign country should dictate policy to the United States.
What do you want from the United States?
I think reinstating the ban that could have a profound impact.
We are strong as a nation because we are independent.
The numbers only are used to support an agenda. And if the agenda is a big agenda, let's invent a big number.
It's a bunch of crap, a bunch of bull. I mean, it's not nowhere even close.
It is a numbers game. You can make this data look in whatever direction you like.
A numbers game built around one number, 90%.
90% of the weapons that are seized and traced through ATF are determined to be U.S. sourced.
A number repeated routinely as if it were fact by the Obama administration.
90% of them
More than
come
90%
from
of the guns recovered in Mexico come from the United States.
By top members of Congress.
We're told that 90% of the weapons used by the cartels come from the United States. We need to shut it off.
And by the media.
More than 90% of the assault weapons seized from drug traffickers come from the United States.
But the fact is, that number doesn't add up.
In reality, it's a drop in the bucket.
Are they tracing all their firearms? No. There are still a lot of firearms that are being seized in Mexico that are not being traced.
And that's because many of them don't have serial numbers.
What's happening now is we're seeing a rise in obliterated serial numbers. We base our analysis on the information that we have, which is the information that's provided to us by the Mexican government.
You only know what they want you to know, or you only know what weapons they want you to trace, for example. But you don't know what you don't know. That's your intelligence gap.
First of all, Mexico is so corrupt, I don't think we should even listen to them.
When officials in their government are being arrested routinely after receiving $450,000 a month in bribes from the cartels, the system is completely corrupt.
When you have a lot of former Mexican soldiers working for these cartels, they not only defected with their bodies, but they defected with a good number of firearms.
They've got Chinese-made weapons, they've got Russian-made, they've got Israeli weapons made.
The guns of choice for those cartel people down there, the fully automatic AKs, the fully automatic M16s and guns like that are not coming from the United States.
I guarantee you cannot go to Walmart and buy some of these grenades or some of these rocket-propelled launchers.
If you look at the power of the narco-terrorists today in Mexico, again, they have more money than groups like Al-Qaeda. They have more money than anybody to purchase weapons. You could stop the sale of all guns in the United States today. You could seal the border. The cartels still have the capability of getting those weapons through Guatemala and Central and Latin America. It's not going to make a hill of beans.
Sitting in the grips of a new kind of terror as Mexican drug cartels spread violence across the border into the southwest.
Powerful, ruthless drug cartels that are now threatening our personal and national security.
You have cross-border abductions. You have cross-border gang activity.
Now, here recently, in our neighboring city, there was a grenade that was thrown in a business. Well, that was a Chinese-made grenade.
But still, the politicians remain blinded by their own agenda.
Guns are a serious problem. The fact that literally thousands of guns are flowing from the United States into Mexico every day.
Another phony figure that was even shot down by William Hoover of the ATF.
The investigations that we have and that we see for firearms flowing across the border don't show us individuals taking thousands of guns a day or at a time flowing into Mexico.
90%, 90%, 90%, 90%, 90%. And then Calderon has the balls to come up and stand in front of our Congress and say, you should change your Bill of Rights. You should take the rights of your own people to defend themselves away because of crime that's happening in my country. Yet you just found out earlier it was the United States federal government making sure that the gangs got the guns. This is nothing new. You know why? Because they work for the banksters. That's right, for all you Goldman Sachs lovers, for all you banker lovers out there, check out this. Here's a little piece, and while I'm saying this, I should give you the sequence of photos so you see, yeah, gee, this is the comedy that they've got you believing their lies.